In this video, we are going to talk about how to find the equation of two circles passing through 2 points and touching the x-axis. First of all, before you can find the equation of any circle, you need to know the radius of the circle, and then also the coordinates of the center of the circle. So here, let's say the center is C. Its coordinates will be x and then y. So from our diagram over here, we can see that the x coordinate of the centers is not known, but then the y coordinate of the two centers is known. That C1 and C2 are known. So here, let's say you have this circle and then this is the point. Now the point is described by a point, the y coordinate. Let's say if this is 2, and then also the x coordinate if this is 4. So the center is going to be 4, 2. So that's how the center is going to be. So let's use the same scenario to determine the center, okay, the coordinate of the center of either circles. So here, let's see what we can do. Now you can clearly see that the distance at this point, this is the distance from the origin. The distance from the origin to this point is the same as the distance from the x-axis to the x coordinates. Therefore, and then at this point, at point S, we can clearly see that the y coordinate for point S is 5. Therefore, we can say that the y coordinate for the center, any of the two centers, is also 5. So we have 5 is equal to the y coordinate of the center. So now that we know the y coordinate for the center, we can clearly state that the y coordinate of the center is also equal to the radius. The y coordinate is also equal to the radius, because the distance from the origin to point S is the same as the distance from the x-axis to the center, and then from the distance from the x-axis to the center is the radius of the circle. Therefore, the radius of the circle is also equal to 5. So how then can we find the x coordinate of the center? The first thing we need to know is that anytime two circles touch the x-axis, equal roots are obtained. We shall prove this in our next video. But what equal root means is that if I have my x, if I have the point, let's say this is the origin, the distance that I move to touch this point is the same as the distance that I move, by just that it is in the opposite direction. So if I move this point over here is, let's say, 3, then it means that this point over here will also be 3, but then -3. That's what is meant by what? Equal roots are obtained. So let's see how we can find the length of, or the x coordinate of either of the centers. And in this case, I'm going to represent C1 or C2 by C. So anytime I write C, I can represent it with either C1 or C2. So let's go on. Now, since we know point S, and then we know point P, and then we know C, that is C1 or C2, we can clearly see that a triangle has been described, and that triangle is triangle PSC, where C represents C1 or C2. So triangle PSC. So this triangle is a right angle triangle, and the same way this triangle over here at the left hand side is also a right angle triangle. So we can see that now that we know that it's a right angle triangle, we can apply our Pythagoras theorem to find the x coordinate of the center. And the x coordinate is the distance from the origin to this point. The distance from the origin to this point. And that distance is the same as from S to the center and also from S to C1. So that's what we want to find. Now, in finding that, we need to apply Pythagoras theorem. And then with Pythagoras theorem, we have to know the hypotenuse, the adjacent, and then the opposite. Now, it is clear from the diagram that PC2 and then PC1 are also radii or radii of the two circles. It's also they are radii of what? The two circles. And so we know the radius of circle 2 to be 5 and that of C1 to also be 5. So the radii for the two is 5. The radii for the two is 5. So we have this. Now, the next thing we need to do is to find the length PS, this length. Now, we can use the length formula. So PS, the magnitude of PS will be equal to the root of, now here, since it is on the y-axis, the x-axis is 0, so we write 0, plus 5 minus 2. 5 minus 2, since plus 5 minus 2, since the x coordinate at the y coordinate of P at the lower point is 2 and the y coordinate of S at the higher point is 5. So we subtract. Therefore, we get root of 3 squared. The root and then the square cancels. Therefore, we have Px to be equal to 3. So now that we also know the length of PS to be 3, we can therefore find the length of SC. So this side is 3. So we have this side is 3 and then this side is 4. Therefore, we want to find for this side. Let's say this side is A. So how do we get that? So this side is 5. So how do we find for A? So from Pythagoras theorem, we can say that 5 squared is equal to 3 squared plus A squared. Therefore, A squared is equal to 5 squared minus 3 squared is equal to A squared. Therefore, we can say that A squared 16 is equal to A squared. We square both sides, and then we have A to be plus or minus 4. So that's A. Now it is plus or minus because the distance is the same. So if I move from here to this point, the distance that I'll cover is the same as moving from S to C1. So S to C2 and S to C1 will be the same, but just that it will be negative. So from S to C2 is 4, and from S to C1 is also negative 4. So now that we have been able to obtain the coordinate, we have been able to obtain the coordinate of the centers, we can then write the equation of the circle. So here we know the equation of the circle to be r squared is equal to x minus a squared plus into bracket y minus b squared, y minus b also squared, where a and then b are the centers. So here we can say that our a is equal to plus or minus 4, and then our b is also equal to 5 plus 5. So here and then our r is also equal to 5. Therefore, we can substitute these values into the equation to get the equation of the circle. So here our equation of the circle now becomes, please let's note the difference very well. So we have 5 squared is equal to into bracket x plus or minus 4 all squared plus of into bracket y minus 5, y minus 5, y minus 5 all squared. So here we have to expand. So we have 25 is equal to x squared then plus or minus 8x then plus 16. No, it is plus because now anytime you square a negative number you get a positive number. So if it is plus 4 squared, it's going to be 16. If it is negative 4 squared, it's also going to be 16. That's why we didn't write plus or minus at that side. So we have that plus y squared minus 10y plus 25. So this gives the equation of the circle. But then we can simplify it further, because the 25, I said that when you have two same numbers at the opposite side of the equation, they are known as spectators, so they cancel out, because you have 25 at the left hand side of the equation and then also 25 at the right hand side, so they cancel out. Therefore we have 0 is equal to x squared plus y squared plus or minus 8x minus 10y plus 16 is the equation of the two circles. Now we say equation of the two circles because of this one, plus or minus, because I can decide to write 0 is equal to x squared plus y squared minus 8x minus 10y plus 16, or 0 is equal to x squared plus y squared minus 8x minus 10y plus that. So I can just split them into two. So that would be all for equations of two circles touching 2 points on a line. Thank you, and let's meet in the next video. Bye.